Hello students, how are you all? I hope you are doing well. So today we are going to discuss chapter 10, heat and its effect. Let's warm up. Talk about the following pictures. So students, look at these pictures. You have to talk about them and you have to talk about these pictures in your class with your friends. Now let's know about heat, temperature and measurement, transfer of heat, good and poor conductors of heat, convection and radiation. So students, these are the topics we are going to discuss in our chapter. First we have heat. Heat is one of the forms of energy. Different types of energy change into heat. When you rub your hands, they become warm because friction generates heat. When you run or do any other strenuous exercise, heat is generated in your body and you start sweating. Burning of fuels also generates heat. In water heater, electricity is used to heat up water. Hence, we can see that heat or thermal energy can be produced from different types of energy and it can transform into other types of energy too. So student, अगर हम heat की बात करें तो heat क्या है? एक type की energy है. जैसे अभी आपको कुछ एग्जाम्पल्स दिए गए कि अगर आप अपने हैंड्स को रब करते हैं तो फ्रिक्शन की वजह से क्या होता है? हीट जनरेट होती है. हम पानी को गर्म करते हैं गीजर में, किसकी हेल्प से? इलेक्ट्रिसिटी की हेल्प से. So students, हम एनर्जी की एक फॉर्म को दूसरी फॉर्म में ट्रांसफर कर सकते हैं. Now we have hot and cold objects. In our daily life, we can come in contact with so many objects. Some of them are hot and others are cold. For example, tea is hot and ice is cold. Here tea gives us the sensation of heat and ice gives the sensation of coldness. Sometimes our sense of touch fails to estimate the degree of hotness of an object and hence we cannot always rely on our sense of touch to decide whether an object is cold or hot. So students, hot and cold की बात करें तो आप सबको पता है कि बहुत सारी चीजें हम अपनी डेली लाइफ में यूज करते हैं जिनमें से कुछ हॉट होती हैं, कुछ कोल्ड होती हैं. जैसे हमें एग्जाम्पल गिवन है कि चाय जो है वो गर्म होती है, आइस जो है वो ठंडा होता है. तो वो हमें पता कैसे चलता है? जब हम उसको टच करते हैं. Now we have temperature and its measurement. Temperature is a measure of hotness and coldness of a body. The SI unit of temperature is Kelvin, but temperature is also measured in degrees Celsius and Fahrenheit degree. The most commonly used thermometer to measure the temperature is a thick-walled uniform glass tube to which a bulb containing mercury is attached at one end. A capillary tube is inside the glass stem in which mercury expands when the bulb is kept in contact with a hot body. Mercury is toxic and it is very difficult to dispose it when the thermometer breaks. So nowadays digital thermometers are used to measure the temperature as they do not contain mercury. So student, अगर हम temperature की बात करें तो temperature का क्या है? एक वे है जिससे हम हॉटनेस और कोल्डनेस किसी ऑब्जेक्ट की या किसी भी चीज की हम मेजर कर सकते हैं. टेम्परेचर हम मेजर करते हैं डिग्री सेल्सियस, केल्विन और फ़ारेनहाइट में. और टेम्परेचर मेजर करते हैं थर्मोमीटर से. थर्मोमीटर में एक कैपिलरी ट्यूब होती है जिसके अंदर क्या होता है? मर्करी होती है. जैसे जैसे टेम्परेचर इंक्रीज होता है वैसे वैसे क्या हो जाता है? आपके थर्मोमीटर में कैपिलरी में मर्करी जो है वो रेज करना स्टार्ट कर देती है. अब मर्करी को डिस्पोज करना बहुत डिफिकल्ट है और मर्करी टॉक्सिक है, इसीलिए आजकल हम डिजिटल थर्मोमीटर्स का यूज करते हैं जिसमें मर्करी नहीं होती है. सो स्टूडेंट्स, डू यू नो द इंस्ट्रूमेंट यूज्ड टू मेजर द टेम्परेचर इज कॉल्ड अ thermometer. Now students, we are going to read about the instrument for measuring temperature. Temperature is measured by a thermometer. A thermometer is a device which detects the change in temperature of an object. It works on the principle that liquid expands on heating. When a liquid is heated, its particles move faster and spread over a large area. This is called expansion. When a liquid is cooled, its particles slow down and come closer. Hence, its volume decreases. This is called contraction. In the beginning, alcohol was used, the liquid, in thermometers. Nowadays, it is replaced by mercury. A thermometer consists of the following parts. So student, firstly आप सबको पता है टेम्परेचर हम मेजर करते हैं विद द हेल्प ऑफ थर्मोमीटर. और थर्मोमीटर वर्क करता है एक्सपेंशन एंड कॉन्ट्रैक्शन ऑफ लिक्विड. दैट मीन्स जब किसी भी लिक्विड को हीट अप किया जाता है तो वो एक्सपेंड हो जाता है. दैट मीन्स जब हम टेम्परेचर मेजर करते हैं और अगर टेम्परेचर हॉट है हॉट इन द सेंस कि अगर आपका जिसका आप मेजर कर रहे हैं वो हॉट ऑब्जेक्ट है तो क्या होगा, मरकरी एक्सपेंड करेगा और रेज कर जाएगा। सेकेंड, हम कॉन्ट्रेक्शन की बात करें तो क्या होगा, जब हमारा टेम्परेचर कम हो जाता है तो लिक्विड क्या हो जाता है, उसका वॉल्यूम डिक्रीज हो जाता है। सेम थिंग, जब अगर हम किसी चीज को मेजर कर रहे हैं टेम्परेचर और वो कोल्ड है तो आपकी मरकरी क्या हो जाएगी, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हो जाएगी। सो दैट इज द थिंग कि आपका जो टेम्परेचर है वो कॉन्ट्रेक्शन और एक्सपेंशन के फॉर्मूले पे वर्क करता है। और पहले टाइम में हम अल्कोहल यूज करते थे, अब हम मरकरी यूज करते हैं। नाउ वी आर गोइंग टू रीड अबाउट द डिफरेंट पार्ट्स ऑफ थर्मोमीटर। First we have, there is a thin glass tube of very small diameter capillary with a bulb at one of its ends. The second we have, the bulb is filled with the liquid and air is removed from the upper part of the capillary and it is open and sealed. The capillary is surrounded by a glass tube on which a scale is attached to read the temperature. In an alcohol thermometer, the scale is usually from minus 10 degrees Celsius to 75 degrees Celsius. In a mercury thermometer, scales can vary up to much higher temperatures. Now look at this picture. Here is a thermometer. When the bulb of the thermometer comes in contact with an object at higher temperature, the liquid in the bulb expands and rises up in the capillary. The level of liquid is read on the scale and it gives the temperature reading. Let's learn more about types of thermometers and how to use them. Here first we have laboratory thermometer. The laboratory thermometer is used for measuring temperature of substances in science experiments performed in laboratory. So student, look at this picture. Here we have laboratory thermometer और laboratory thermometer labs में use होते हैं. A common laboratory thermometer can be measure temperature from 10 degrees Celsius to 110 degrees Celsius. This is called the range of a laboratory thermometer. This means that a common laboratory thermometer can measure a lowest temperature of 10 degrees Celsius and the highest temperature of 110 degrees Celsius. Now we have precautions in using a laboratory thermometer. So student, these are some precautions we have to take when we use a laboratory thermometer. The thermometer should be washed before and after use. A thermometer is delicate and should be handled with care to avoid breakage. It should not be held by the bulb while reading the temperature. It should not be kept tilted. It should be kept right. The bulb should be completely surrounded by the substance whose temperature is being measured and the bulb should not touch the sides of the container. While reading the thermometer, the level of mercury should be at the same level as the eye. So student, these are some precautions. That means जब आप टेम्परेचर चेक कर रहे हो लेबोरेटरी थर्मोमीटर में, सो जो मरकरी का लेवल है वो आपके आई लेवल पे होना चाहिए. सेकेंडली, जिस सब्सटेंस का आप टेम्परेचर मेजर कर रहे हो वो चीज ही आपके थर्मोमीटर का जो बल्ब है उसके अंदर होना चाहिए. कंटेनर से टच नहीं होना चाहिए. आपको बहुत केयरफुली उसको हैंडल करना चाहिए बिकॉज इट इज डेलिकेट. नाउ वी हैव क्लिनिकल थर्मोमीटर. The human body temperature can't be measured by using a laboratory thermometer. This is because as soon as we take out the bulb of the laboratory thermometer from our mouth, the level of the mercury in its tube will start falling quickly. This is due to the cooling of its bulb by air. This will give a wrong value of the body. The students, हम ह्यूमन बॉडी के टेम्परेचर को मेजर करने के लिए लेबोरेटरी थर्मोमीटर का यूज नहीं करते हैं. Now in order to measure the temperature of a body, you should choose a thermometer whose mercury does not fall quickly even when its bulb is removed from the mouth. Such type of thermometer which is used for measuring the temperature of a body is called a clinical thermometer. Before describing the clinical thermometer, we should know the meaning of the term kink. The kink is a narrow and sharp bend in the bore of clinical thermometer just above the bulb. Kink is also known as constriction. The clinical thermometer is well known as doctor's thermometer. To check the body, we use a clinical thermometer which is placed in your mouth or in your armpit. This thermometer is used by doctor or at home. A clinical thermometer is shown in the figure. So student, look at this figure. This is a clinical thermometer. A clinical thermometer consists of a long glass tube having a thin and uniform bore. There is a thin glass bulb at one end of the glass tube. This glass bulb contains mercury. This is a small shining and thread of mercury which can be seen in the thermometer tube. And the other end of glass tube is sealed. Also, a temperature scale is marked on the glass tube of the clinical thermometer. The clinical thermometer has a temperature scale marked from 35 degrees Celsius to 42 degrees Celsius. So students, आप सबको पता है clinical thermometer आप सबने देखा है. Look at this picture. This is a clinical thermometer. So clinical thermometer को जब हम अपने माउथ से बाहर निकालते हैं तो उसका मरकरी इतनी जल्दी फॉल नहीं होता है, वो नॉर्मल फॉल होता है. सो दैट्स व्हाई हम इजिली टेम्परेचर नोट कर सकते हैं बॉडी का, और हम क्लिनिकल थर्मोमीटर को डॉक्टर्स थर्मोमीटर भी बोलते हैं. नाउ दिस थर्मोमीटर हैज अ स्लाइट बेंड और किंक in the stem just above the bulb. When the thermometer is taken out of your mouth, the liquid in the bulb contracts and the mercury column breaks at the kink. Therefore, the level of the mercury in the stem remains the same. So, student, क्या है किंक जो पोर्शन होता है वहां पे क्या होता है, वो ब्रेक होता है मर्करी उस कॉलम में. Now we have precautions in using a clinical thermometer. The clinical thermometer should be washed before and after use with an antiseptic solution. We should ensure that the level of mercury is below 35 degrees Celsius before using the thermometer. Read the clinical thermometer by keeping the level of mercury along the line of sight. Don't hold the thermometer by the bulb while reading it. Do not sterilize the thermometer in boiling water as it will break the bulb. So students, these are some precautions you have to take when you use a clinical thermometer. Now we have check and mate, as we already read about these things, so you can do it by yourself. Now students, we are going to read about the transfer of heat. We have read earlier that heat always transfers from a body at higher temperature to a body at lower temperature. This transfer of heat takes place in three ways. These are conduction, convection and radiation. So student, ट्रांसफर ऑफ हीट कैसे होता है, हमेशा हायर टेम्परेचर से लोअर टेम्परेचर पे होता है, और इसको ट्रांसफर होने के तीन तरीके हैं, दैट इज कंडक्शन, कन्वेक्शन एंड रेडिएशन. द फर्स्ट वी हैव कंडक्शन. टेक अ मेटल रोड एंड फिक्स पिन्स यूजिंग विक्स अलोंग इट्स लेंथ एट डिफरेंट इंटरवल्स एज शोन इन फिगर. Heat one end of the rod and observe. You will notice as the rod gets hot, the wax melts and the nails start falling off. The nail which is closest to the flame falls off first, while the nail farthest from the flame falls off the last. This shows that heat is being transferred from the end of the rod that is being heated, hot end, to the other end, cool end. So in this picture we have heat transfer through conduction. This process of heat transfer from the hotter end of an object to the colder end is called conduction. The conduction of heat takes place without the actual displacement of particles. Conduction of heat also takes place when two bodies at different temperatures are brought in contact. In this case, the heat is transferred from the hotter object to the colder object. Let us perform an activity to understand the types of materials on the basis of their ability to transfer heat. So students, आप सबको समझ आया कंडक्शन क्या होता है. कंडक्शन में हीट का ट्रांसफर होता है. वो दो तरीके से हो सकता है कि या तो आप किसी ऑब्जेक्ट के एक एंड को क्या कर रहे हो, हीट प्रोवाइड कर रहे हो, या फिर दो ऐसी ऑब्जेक्ट है जिसमें एक का टेम्परेचर ज्यादा है और एक का कम, तो भी कंडक्शन के थ्रू हीट ट्रांसफर हो जाती है. अब हम एक एक्टिविटी परफॉर्म करेंगे ये जानने के लिए किस मटेरियल की कितनी एबिलिटी है ट्रांसफर करने की. ओके, नाउ वी हैव एन एक्टिविटी. Activity 1. Aim to distinguish various materials on the basis of their ability to transfer heat. Things required: a beaker of hot water, a piece of metallic wire, a pencil, a plastic scale, a metallic spoon, a glass stirrer, and a wooden spoon. Method: put the available things in the beaker of hot water and observe after 3 to 4 minutes by touching the various objects. Here we have observations. Some objects like the metallic wire and the metallic spoon feel hot to touch, whereas the wooden spoon, plastic scale and glass stirrer feel the same as they were earlier. Conclusion: some objects, usually metals, allow heat to pass through them. They are referred to as conductors. Some objects do not allow heat to pass through them. They are referred to as insulators. So students, अगर हम कंडक्टर और इंसुलेटर की बात करें तो कंडक्टर्स वो होते हैं जो आपकी हीट को ट्रांसफर करते हैं, और अगर हम इंसुलेटर की बात करें तो वो होते हैं जो हीट का ट्रांसफर नहीं करते. नाउ वी आर गोइंग टू रीड अबाउट द गुड एंड पुअर कंडक्टर्स ऑफ हीट. सम मटेरियल्स अलाउ हीट टू पास थ्रू देम इजीली व्हाइल अदर मटेरियल्स डू नॉट. So on the basis of conduction of heat, all the materials are classified into two groups. The first we have good conductors of heat, that means conductors. Bad conductors of heat, that means insulators. The material which allow heat to pass through them quickly are called good conductors of heat. All the metals like silver, copper, aluminium, iron and alloys like brass, stainless steel, etc. are good conductors of heat. On the other hand, the materials which do not allow heat to pass through them quickly are called poor conductors of heat of insulators. Paper, wood, leather, clothes, asbestos, brick, rubber, plastic, glass, bakelite, etc. are all bad conductors of heat. Most liquids and gases are poor conductors of heat. Now students, do you know? Silver metal is the best conductor of heat. Copper is also one of the best conductors of heat. Aluminium is also a good conductor of heat. So students, if we are going to talk about the materials, so most of the metals are good conductors of heat. Now we have uses of good conductors of heat. In our daily life, we use so many objects which are good conductors of heat. Good conductors are used to carry heat quickly wherever it is wanted. Some of the examples of good conductors of heat are cooking utensils, which are usually made of metals like copper and aluminium, and alloys like brass and stainless steel, as they are all good conductors of heat. Cooking utensils are made of metal which transfer the heat from the gas stove quickly to the food placed inside the utensils through the bottom. Aluminium metals are good conductors of heat which conduct the heat from the gas burner of a stove quickly through the bottom of the food kept inside. Now look at these pictures. We have metal appliances having plastic handles. Another use of conductor is mercury metal used in thermometers because it is a good conductor of heat. So student, these are some good conductors of heat and their uses. जैसे हमारे बर्तन हैं वो भी सब क्या है, मेटल के बने होते हैं और good conductor of heat है, इसलिए खाना बहुत जल्दी बन जाता है. Now we have uses of poor conductors of heat. Insulating handles, appliances like cooking pan, pressure cooker, electric iron, electric kettle, etc. are provided with a wooden or bakelite plastic handles because these materials are poor conductor of heat. Hence, the heat from these hot appliances does not flow into our hands. As a result, we can hold the appliances by their handles even when they are hot. So students, अगर हम बात करें तो हम जैसे handles जो हैं बर्तनों के, वो किसके होते हैं? Bad conductors of heat के, ताकि हम easily hold कर सके, वहां तक heat ना आए. Now we have convection. Convection is made of transfer of heat in liquids and gases. Convection is based on the principle that no particles of liquid and gases move faster, rise up, lefting the cooler particles to move down towards the source of heat. In liquids and gases, heat is transmitted by convection because their molecules are quite free to move about. The molecules of solid are closely packed and their movement is not possible. Hence, convection does not take place in solids. The transfer of heat by convection also cannot take place in empty spaces or vacuum, because there are no particles of any kind in empty space which can move and transfer heat. So student, अगर हम convection की बात करें, convection से जो है heat transfer most of the time liquid और gases में होता है, solid में नहीं होता क्योंकि solid के particles freely move नहीं करते. And convection से heat transfer vacuum में भी नहीं होता है क्योंकि वहाँ कोई particles present नहीं होते जो heat को transfer कर सके. Now we have convection in water. Since water is a poor conductor of heat, so it cannot transfer heat by conduction. Water transfer heat by the process of convection. For heating water, we keep the vessel containing water over a gas burner. Since the burner is kept at the bottom of the vessel, it still heats all the water in the vessel. Actually, when water is heated in a vessel, it transfers heat from its hotter parts to its colder parts by the process called convection. So student, water किस process से गर्म होता है, that is convection. Look at this picture. We have hot water rises upwards in a vessel. So student, that's how water is warm. The point where the two bonds connect with this process of hot water rising upwards and cold water sinking downwards take place again and again, due to which the whole water in a vessel gets heated uniformly. The circulatory movements of water in the vessel in which hot water rises and cold water sinks again and again are called convection currents. These convection currents transfer heat from water at the bottom of vessel to the top of the vessel rapidly. Hence, we can see that water in a beaker is heated by convection currents. So students, क्या होता है कि जो hot water है वो rises up होता है और जो cold water है वो downward जाता है और ये सर्कल चलता रहता है. इसको हम कन्वेक्शन करंट बोलते हैं और हम ये भी बोल सकते हैं कि जो बीकर में वाटर है किसकी हेल्प से गर्म हुआ है? कन्वेक्शन करंट्स की हेल्प से. नाउ वी हैव एक्टिविटी 2. एम to show that liquids transfer heat by convection. Materials required: a round bottom flask, potassium permanganate burner, retort still. Method: take a round bottom flask and fill it 2/3 with water. A small crystal of potassium permanganate is dropped gently using a spatula at the bottom of this flask. This potassium permanganate crystal dissolves slowly and forms a purple colored solution around itself. Heat the water at the bottom of the flask by using a burner and observe the movement of the purple colored solution. Here we have observation. The purple colored solution rises from the bottom of the flask up to the surface of the water and then moves downward near the walls of the flask. Look at this picture, students. We have round bottom flask. Conclusion: when water at the bottom of the flask near the flames gets heated, it expands, becomes lighter. So hot water rises upwards and carries. Now we have water can transfer heat by convection only in upward direction because hot water rises upwards in the vessel. This is why we heat the vessel containing water from below by keeping a burner at its bottom. The heating of an electric kettle is also fixed at the bottom of the kettle. Note that if water is heated at the top rather than at the bottom, convection does not occur. If the water taken in a vessel is heated by a burner at the top, then the water, being lighter, stays at the top of the vessel, since no hot water from the top can sink downwards towards the bottom of the vessel. The water at the bottom of such a vessel will remain cold. So students, हम water को कहाँ हमेशा हम नीचे से गर्म क्यों करते हैं? बिकॉज जो हमारा कन्वेक्शन है उसमें वाटर राइजेस अप होता है. जो हॉट वाटर है वो कहाँ जाता है? ऊपर की तरफ जाता है. सपोज अगर आप उसे अपोजिट साइड से गर्म करना स्टार्ट कर देंगे तो वो गर्म नहीं होगा. कन्वेक्शन इन एयर. Air transfer heats from its hotter parts to the colder parts by the process of convection or by moving itself. In winters, when we heat air in a room, we keep the heater at the floor in a corner. Now, though the heater is placed on the floor at the bottom of the room, but it still heats all the air in the room. Actually, when air is heated by the heater in one part of the room, it transfers heat by convection. This happens as follows. When the heater kept on the floor in a room is switched on, the air near the heater gets heated, expands and becomes lighter. This hot air rises above the top of the heater and carries its heat along with it. See figure. Look at this picture. That's how. Like water, the cold air from the above sinks downward to the bottom of the heater to take the place of the hot rising air. This cold air also gets heated by the heater and rises upwards, carrying its heat upward. And more cold air sinks downward to the heater. This process of hot air rising upwards and cold air sinking downwards take place again and again, due to which all the air in the rooms gets heated uniformly after some time. The circulatory movements of air in the room in which hot air rises and cold air sinks again and again are called convection currents. Thus, a room heater heats all the air in a room by setting up convection currents in the air. Now we have convection current in nature. Land and sea breeze that occur near the coastal areas are a result of convectional currents set up in the air. As land surface is better conductor of heat than water, it is heated up faster during the day. This makes the air close to the land surface warmer. The warmer air rises up and the cool air from the sea rushes in to take its place. This gives rise to the sea breeze. Look at this picture, student. That's how a sea breeze is formed. At night, the land cools faster than water in the sea. So the air above the sea is warmer than the air above the land surface. The warmer air above the sea, being lighter, rises up and the cool air from the land takes its place. This gives rise to land breeze. So then look here, that's how a land breeze is formed. Do you know? Air conditioners are installed near the roof. The cool air moves down and warm air near the surface of the room rises up, thereby setting up convectional currents which cool the whole room effectively. So students, हम AC को हमेशा ऊपर की तरफ इसलिए लगाते हैं क्योंकि जो हमारे cool air है वो किस तरफ move करती है, downward. Now we have radiation. Have you ever wondered how the sun makes you warm? The energy of sun reaches us in the form of waves. These waves are absorbed by all matter. For example, we feel warm when we sit in front of an electric heater. Heat from the sun reaches us to make us feel warm. How does this heat reaches us without any matter or medium present between the sun and ourselves? The heat from the sun is neither transferred by conduction nor by convection because the space between our atmosphere and the sun is empty. The process through which the heat from the sun or heat from a heater reaches us is called radiation. Thus, radiation can be defined as the process of transfer of heat from a hot body to a cold body without affecting the medium and no material medium is required is called radiation. The energy so radiated is called radiant energy. So student, radiation क्या है? वो medium heat के transfer होने का जिसे किसी medium की जरूरत नहीं होती है, that is radiation. Now look at this picture. Here is radiation. Every hot object emits invisible heat rays in all directions. The heat rays carry heat energy. When the cold object receives these heat rays, then the object gets heated. In this way, heat energy is transferred from hot object to cold object by means of heat rays. Due to process of radiation, the transfer of heat energy by heat rays is possible. So student, heat rays के through heat energy का transfer किसकी वजह से possible है? Radiation की वजह से. Now we have absorption of radiant heat. Light, which is a form of radiant energy, also travels at a great speed in all directions from the body emitting it and does not need a material medium. When light falls on a body, it is partly absorbed and partly reflected. Similarly, when radiant heat falls on a body, a part of it is absorbed by the body and the remaining part is reflected back. The objects having dark colors absorb more heat radiations than the objects having light colors. The absorbing power or reflecting power of any substance depend upon the nature of its surface, the color of the object. Shiny smooth surfaces are better reflectors while dull rough surfaces absorbers. So students, क्या है, अगर हम रेडिएशन की बात करें तो रेडिएशन में क्या होता है कि रेडिएशन की जो हीट है वो ट्रांसफर होती है रेडिएशन के थ्रू. जैसे हमारी लाइट जो है रिफ्लेक्ट हो जाती है, वैसे ही रेडिएशन की जो हीट, दैट इज रेडिएंट हीट, जो है वो भी बॉडी पे आके स्ट्राइक करती है, कुछ एब्जॉर्ब हो जाती है और कुछ रिफ्लेक्ट हो जाती है. Now we have check and mate. As we already read about these things, so you can do it by yourself. Now we have thermos flask. A hot object loses heat to the surroundings by conduction, convection and radiation. Similarly, a cold object gains heat from the surrounding by these three modes. So to keep a hot body hot or a cold body cold, we need to reduce the loss or gain of heat respectively due to these three modes. This is done with a container called thermos flask. Thermos flask or vacuum flask is a container which keeps hot liquids hot and cold liquids cold. The basic principle of the thermos flask is the heat gained or heat lost by conduction, convection and radiation is maintained at a minimum level. This flask consists of a double-walled bottle made of glass with the inner surfaces of the walls silvered. The air between the two walls is removed to create vacuum by using a vacuum pump and then sealed. The mouth of the flask is closed with a cork or plastic. The double-walled glass bottle is placed in a metal or a plastic case with a support or corks at the bottom. Heat loss due to conduction is prevented because glass and cork are poor conductors of heat. Conduction cannot take place in vacuum as it requires a medium. The stopper and the vacuum prevent the heat loss due to convection. The highly polished silver walls prevent heat loss due to radiation. The substance in a flask therefore retains its temperature as hot or cold for a longer time. So student, यहाँ बताया गया है कि थर्मोफ्लास्क में हमारी ऑब्जेक्ट्स अगर हम रखते हैं चीज, वो गर्म या ठंडी कैसे रहती है, क्योंकि वहां पर कंडक्शन, कन्वेक्शन और रेडिएशन पॉसिबल नहीं है. उनको इस तरीके से डिजाइन किया जाता है ताकि उनमें एक वैक्यूम क्रिएट कर दिया जाता है और वैक्यूम में कंडक्शन पॉसिबल नहीं है. सिल्वर पॉलिश की जाती है जिसकी वजह से रेडिएशन पॉसिबल नहीं है. तो इन सारी चीजों को क्या कर दिया जाता है, इस तरीके से उसको डिजाइन किया जाता है ताकि कंडक्शन, कन्वेक्शन और रेडिएशन पॉसिबल ना हो. दैट्स वाई उसमें आप जो भी ऑब्जेक्ट रखते हैं ठंडी या गर्म, तो वो वैसे ही टेम्परेचर पे मेंटेन होती है. सो स्टूडेंट्स, व्हाट वी लर्न इन दिस चैप्टर, नाउ वी आर गोइंग टू डिस्कस इट इन अ नटशेल. हियर वी हैव, heat is a form of energy that gives us a sensation of hotness or coldness. A common laboratory thermometer can measure temperature from 10 degrees Celsius to 110 degrees Celsius. A clinical thermometer consists of long glass tube having thin and uniform bore. Heat energy can be converted into other forms of energy such as light, mechanical, electrical energy. A thermometer is a device used for the measurement of temperature. The Celsius and Fahrenheit scales are commonly used to measure temperature. Ice melts at 0 degrees Celsius or 32 degrees Fahrenheit. A clinical thermometer is used to measure the temperature of the human body. Heat flows or travels in three ways: conduction, convection, and radiation. Materials through which heat can transfer are called insulators. Materials through which heat cannot transfer are called insulators. Heat from the sun is transferred by radiation. The transfer of heat by conduction, convection, and radiation is minimized in thermostats. Now, students, these are some key points we have. Now we have some keywords. Here we have heat, a form of energy which causes sensation of hotness or coldness. Then we have temperature, the degree of hotness or coldness of a body. Then we have conductors, materials which allow heat to pass through them easily. Then we have insulators, material which do not allow heat to pass through them. Then we have conduction, transfer of heat from the hot part of a material to its colder part without movement of material as a whole. Then we have convection, the process of transfer of heat from a hotter object to a colder object without the need of a medium. The process of transfer of heat in a liquid or a gas by the actual movement of the particles of a liquid or a gas. Now we have radiation, the process of transfer of heat from a hotter object to a colder object without the need of a medium. Thank you, students. We will meet again in the next chapter. Till then, revise what we learned today.